Tyler Ward. Along with us, our fellow select board members, Bill Taylor and Ed Youngst. We have Town Administrator Rodney Bartlett, and I'll just go with soon to be again, our Town Administrator, Nicole McStay. So we have Allie Kreutz taking our minutes, and Tim Brezovic running all our IT. Although I see another IT, is that Bosch in the room?
No, there's no one in the room. It's just an IT laptop that's facilitating the streaming.
All right, then. If you're watching us, you're with us with Facebook, maybe on YouTube, or Ustream by the town's website, or on Comcast Channel 22. This meeting, along with all of our other meetings, are always archived and available on many of those platforms. Tonight's agenda will open up with a public hearing, community development block grant funding for local business Nuttin Ordinary. There'll be a code amendment to Article 195-29 regarding no parking signs on East Mountain Road. We'll look to appoint a couple of new police officers to the force. And Seth McLean is here from Department of Public Works to give us an update on electrical vehicle charging stations. We'll review and approve some minutes from our select board meetings from November 17th, December 1st, and December 8th. And then under other business, we'll have Chief Walker give us an update on the happenings and the current situation up at the Walden Eco Village Garland Trust property. With that, I would like to welcome, let me see, you've put the agenda on, oh, there you go.
Sorry about that.
Scroll back to my, we'll open up the Community Development Block Grant mid-grant public hearing. I open this public hearing to discuss a Community Development Block Grant project currently underway. Notice of public hearing, Community Development Block Grant program. I have to read that we're going to hold a meeting that we're holding right now?
Typically, it's part of the mid-grant hearing to just read the notice, but you can really go over the key details.
Well, I'll just read the whole thing and then get down to hand it over to you, James. Thanks. Okay, the Peterborough Select Board will hold a public hearing on December 15th, 2020 at 5 p.m. remotely via the virtual meeting platform Zoom and online platform Facebook Live. The purpose of this public hearing is to discuss and hear public comment on the MEDC, that's Monadnock Economic Development Corporation, Nuttin Ordinary, project currently underway. This project is funded through the Federal Community Development Block Grant awarded to the town of Peterborough. To participate, well, if you're participating, you're already here. Those persons who wish to participate in the meeting are unable to stream the meeting. Well, I'm not going to read that because they're not participating now. Okay, interested persons are invited to attend. Anyone wishing to submit written comments via mail prior to the hearing. All right, never mind that part too. And at this moment, I'm going to recognize James Weatherly to address the grant project. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's those notices are quite lengthy. My name is James Weatherly, and I am the CDBG Grant Administrator with Southwest Region Planning Commission. As mentioned before, it is a requirement of the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG program, to hold a public hearing while the project is underway to allow the public an opportunity to comment and ask questions. And today we will be providing an update on the MEDC Nuttin Ordinary project and accepting public comments and questions. A little bit of background on this project. The town of Peterborough was awarded $120,000 in August of 2019 in federal CDBG economic development funds. The majority of those funds were then sub-granted to the Monadnock Economic Development Corporation, who then used the funds to make a loan to Nuttin Ordinary LLC, and that was primarily for both working capital and equipment purchases. Nuttin Ordinary is New England's first cashew-based cheese manufacturer and currently offers a suite of cashew cheese projects, both available online and in grocery stores across the region. As a result of the project, Nuttin Ordinary would create 6 jobs, at least 5 of which would be filled by persons with low to moderate income. And for a quick update on the project at this time, Nuttin Ordinary appears to have nearly completed the job creation requirements for this project and has drawn down all available funds for economic development. And to provide a little bit more details of the business and the project itself, I'm here with Art Robert, President of MEDC, as well as a representative from Nuttin Ordinary.
Great. I recognize Robert and the representative from Nuttin Ordinary, I believe it's Adam Hamilton, perhaps, to address the grant requests.
Let me just start briefly by saying hello and thank you. MEDC is an economic development organization. We're an enabler. Nuttin Ordinary is the real story here in terms of taking the risks, making the investment. MEDC through different financing sources, being able to support some of that, but the job creation and success is really all on the Nuttin Ordinary side. But I would suggest if you're comfortable, Adam, if you could provide a little bit of background in terms of what your company's about and where you're at, maybe I can conclude with just a few notes on what our small piece of the big picture has been.
Thank you, Art, and thank you, Peterborough Select Board and community members. Yes, my name is Adam Hamilton. I'm the representative for Nuttin Ordinary LLC, which is located here in Peterborough, New Hampshire. So we manufacture a plant-based cheese. The medium that we use is actually the cashew nut. And when you imagine what we're doing in our facility, imagine big steel brewing tanks like beer making or yogurt making. That's actually how we create our products. So we take tried and true methods that have been developed over thousands of years for dairy cheese, and we modified that process to create the cheese that we sell in the New England region as far down as Virginia, and then online across the U.S. Back in 2019, when we applied for this, at the very end of 2019, we had just signed on 2 major accounts, Market Basket and Wegmans. And so these funds were timely. There was one piece of equipment we needed to scale, and it was a sealing machine to stabilize the shelf life of our product. And then, of course, we had to staff up to meet the demand from the product in those 2 new key retailers. So 2020 has been a heck of a year, and in March, we were unsure what the business was going to look like, but where we're at right now, which is our busy season during the holidays, we're happy to say that we are fully staffed, that we believe we've met the hiring obligations under the grant, and we continue to expand. In fact, we just opened a new warehouse in the Chicago area. It's called Romeo Village, through a distributor called Kehi, and that will service much of the Midwest. So we're pretty excited. Lots of exciting things happening here at our company.
Great. That is great. Thank you for that.
So if I may, I could perhaps follow on that briefly. Arthur Robert, President of MEDC. We're pleased to have played a small role in supporting Nuttin Ordinary's growth. This CDBG Economic Development Grant that we received on a subrecipient basis and we turned it into a loan to the company. It's one of 11 that we've done over the years for a total of about $4.3 million. I think this company, Adam's success, his team's success, is really a reflection and part of the power of this program. There aren't a lot of options for providing finance to fast-growing companies, especially at the early stages. The CDBG program is not a simple program. It's tied to a federal law that was passed in the early 70s. There are layers upon layers of regulation that have emerged around a basic goal that I think everybody agrees on, and that is to encourage job creation, creating, in particular, creating opportunities for low and moderate income people. What I think we're seeing with Nuttin Ordinary is just a great example of a company that can leverage resources like that and establish a significant presence, not just in New England, but as we've learned today, much further into the heartland of America, which is really very exciting. I think all I would say in addition is that, I guess 2 other points briefly. First, MEDC actually provided a small loan to the company back in August of 2018 for working capital. It may help provide another small piece of the foundation to enable growth. And we're certainly pleased that we had the opportunity to do that. I guess the last I would say, just come back to the complexity of these programs. I really just want to say thank you to the Southwest Regional Planning Commission, James Weatherly in particular, in that he was able to make the administration of this kind of arrangement less complicated so that everybody involved could focus on the important pieces, which was getting the money to where it needed to be, and more importantly, see the jobs get created, people get access to opportunity, and seeing a great new company growing here in Southwest.
Well, thank you, Art, James, and Adam. It's nice to hear some good news. We all kind of need that these days. At this point, I'll open the floor to public comments and questions about the CDBG project underway. I don't see too many people in the audience here on the Zoom.
If I may, my name is Jessica Devine. I have been working with Nuttin Ordinary since the beginning of this year. I approached them to talk about the possibility of them hiring someone that I support in the community. I work for Monadnock Developmental Services, and they were very open once I gave them some background on the individual's work history and what she might be looking for a paid position. So they've just been incredible with providing her with such a supportive environment and creating a position that really has enabled her to flourish and learn things that she never thought that she'd be capable of doing. So I'm very grateful for Adam and everybody else who works at Nuttin Ordinary.
Nice. Thank you, Jessica, for making that connection. Seems like everybody ended up in a good spot there. Anyone else? Okay. I think this is good. Seeing no other public input, I guess it's time to close the public hearing and just thank you guys once again. Everybody involved did a great job. And, went just as it should, right? Thanks all.
Thanks so much for your time, all.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you.
Next up, I think Seth is going to bring us up to speed on no parking signs for East Mountain Road. Is that true?
Actually, Rodney is the one on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I have the heavy lifting on the no parking signs.
Gotcha.
We were requested by Richard Pendleton, who now works for the Monadnock Conservancy, to meet with him up on East Mountain Road near the Raymond Trail. And as almost everyone here recognizes, the use of outdoor facilities this past year, particularly in the spring and early summer, were very heavy, with people trying to get outside, get exercise, and still adhere to the social distancing requirements that we've been required to live by, fortunately. So we did meet on site. We actually met with one of the neighbors at 565 East Mountain Road, talked about the situation with parking that had occurred out there, so that Chief Kennard, myself, Richard Pendleton, and the resident from 565 East Mountain Road agreed that no parking signs on the west side of East Mountain Road across from the start of the Raymond Trail would be appropriate, both for safety and traffic control. And as some of you may know, there's also some additional parking right down the street from that that allows cars to park and get access to the trail. So what we're asking the board to do is authorize the installation of no parking signs on the west side of East Mountain Road in the area of the Raymond Trail, essentially 200 feet to the north and 200 feet to the south.
All right. Would anybody like to entertain a motion?
You have to ask for public input first.
Oh, do.
Yes.
Excellent. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment about the parking? Or no parking, right? I do not see anybody or hear any hands going up. Just a reminder, you can walk from the downtown, pick up the bagel downtown, throw it in your pocket and walk all the way up Pine Street to Cheney Ave, across the Lovely Meadow, through the Cranberry Bog, make your way up there. You don't have to worry about parking on East Mountain Road. It goes all the way to Packman Ave. With that, would anybody now like to make a motion that we install no parking signs on East Mountain Road?
So if, the motion, if I can, the motion would be to amend section 195-29 of the Town of Peterborough Code Book to install no parking sign, to include no parking on that portion of East Mountain Road.
Motion, again, motion would be to amend section 1.
Hearing it twice.
I would move that we do what Nicole just stated, and hopefully that's captured for the minutes, but install those no parking signs on East Mountain Road.
Fair enough. And I'll second that. Oh,
Third.
It's got a unanimous, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Yep, sounds like a plan. Thanks, Rodney, for taking care of that.
And just one note on that, those signs won't be installed on East Mountain Road until springtime.
Fair enough. All right. Up next, I was not involved. Were either Ed or you or Bill involved in any of the interviews, or how did it work to interview the new police officers?
I think one of them I was there for, and I think Ed was there for the other one.
No, I was not asked or notified, or the only time I was involved with the police was about a promotion to review the two candidates.
Oh, right.
Candidates.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Liam Sheehan.
Hmm?
I was there for his. He's an impressive guy.
All right. So at this point, I guess I'll make a motion to appoint Jesse Byam and Liam Sheehan as new police officers.
I'll second it.
All right, and hopefully you don't have to meet them in your car. Maybe we'll meet them in the office one day.
Hopefully.
We have an all in favor? Aye. Tyler?
Aye.
Right?
Okay. We're moving right through this. Next up, Seth McLean is here for this one. An update on our electrical vehicle charging stations down at the Riverwalk parking lot in downtown Peterborough. Hi, Seth.
Tyler, thank you, Mr. Chair. For those that don't know me, I know everybody on the call who's been watching the public. My name is Seth McLean. I'm the Public Works Assistant Director at this point, but I'll be moving into a little bit more of a project-focused capacity as Rodney retires. So Rodney invited me to meet with the Peterborough Energy Committee last week so we could get to know each other a little bit, start talking through next steps, what we've done so far, and next steps relative to the electrical vehicle charging stations that are proposed and approved for, at least financially approved for the Riverwalk parking lot. So we did have a great meeting with that committee last week, very enthusiastic group of people who have done a tremendous amount of homework, who I'm very excited to learn from, and by no means expert in electrical vehicle charging, but that committee will certainly be providing an awful lot of information to help us make an informed decision between the staff, the committee, and the board. We had a great meeting. We learned quite a bit from each other. We talked through a lot of things. Of course, the emphasis was electrical vehicle charging. And prior to that meeting, I started to look at this a bit with all the free time we have here at the townhouse. Obviously not the case lately, but we are moving forward on this initiative. We did so, or at least I did so, by putting calls into the Southwest Regional Planning Commission. So another thank you to them. As was mentioned earlier, they're a great organization, and they oftentimes, even if they're not directly involved with our projects, they provide us great resources. In this case, they gave us a great resource through HTS, who is a person who's been working with municipalities, stakeholders, communities on this exact type of initiative. So I've set up a time to discuss what we're doing in Peterborough with that individual, and I hope to have some additional updates there soon. We've essentially invited her to come and join a meeting and help educate the committee and myself on our staff on next steps, do's and don'ts relative to this type of initiative. I also have a meeting set up with Eversource tomorrow, so folks know, we're going to look at the grid to make sure that the parking lot fit, deal with whatever the selected apparatus is for charging. We'll be walking around tomorrow. But in addition to that, we'll also be talking through potential rebates on the program, and also looking at the depot area as the committee outlined to us for potential future expansion of electrical vehicle charging stations become more of a prevalent, which I believe we all think they will. So we're going to do a little bit of investigative work there as well, so we understand what would be next down the pipeline in the event that we go a little further. I've also solicited the Peterborough Energy Committee for all the technical information that they've gathered so far, which, as I said a moment ago, is plentiful. They put a lot of work into this. They'll be working with us the best they can. They'll be working with us with that, with as much information as they can provide to help us get our technical knowledge up, because we're not experts, like I said, but we can come the best we can. Follow it up in January, most likely at this point, with some additional discussions with other communities. I think our meeting with NHDS is going to be very fruitful. We should be getting a fair amount of contacts out of that help us to understand other communities, including team that has done this. We'll be reaching out to communities, so again, that we learn do's and don'ts as we move forward. And my best bet at this point, as we're in budgets and we're doing some other issues right now, is probably a January time frame to move forward with the preparation of bid documentation, so we can get this out to vendors and go through a selection process to find the right fit for our community. And as it stands right now, that's where we're at. There'll be a lot more information coming down the pipeline in January.
Great, sounds good. Good to see some movement on that, yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the town's also looking into possible charging stations at the library, right?
Yeah, thank you for the reminder, Mr. Chair. The library is going to move forward, my understanding, on electrical vehicle charging stations with the opportunity of this bundle Riverwalk parking lot with that. Timing all works. Then we will look for cost savings there.
Great. Anybody have any questions or?
Mr. Chair, Seth, could you touch on the cost of the electricity and how that might be paid for?
Oh, thank you, Rodney. Yeah. And I may ask Nicole to add a little bit of additional information here, but we did investigate the primary question early on was, how would the electricity be paid for? Would it be paid for through funding through the town, taxation, essentially provided to whomever uses the charging station, or would we come up with a way to charge for that electricity? What we have found is that we unfortunately cannot provide that electricity. We do need to charge for it, and that's through consultation with our legal team here in the town. So that helps us narrow our focus on what we're looking for, what we ultimately will select for the right apparatus for the town. But again, to reiterate, we cannot provide that electricity free of charge.
All right, fair enough. And people can contact you for if they have further questions regarding that?
Always, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that update.
Welcome.
Has anybody read the minutes from November 17th, December 1st, and December 8th?
I did.
Of course we have. I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes as written so thoroughly by Ally Croy.
Second. Oh, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, we moved through all that rather quickly. Up next, it's no news to anybody in town by now. We have a very dire situation we've come upon that we're all very concerned about up at the Walnico Village Garland property in town. And Chief Walker's here to bring us up to speed on where we are with residents that may be displaced or not, and what's happening up there. We found out about this at the end of last week. We met, and I have to say, this really threw us. We were all beside ourselves with what we had to do. So, Chief, please share with us where we are now.
Sure. Thank you, Tyler. So as folks are aware, the approximately 25 residents living in the 14 or 15 residential buildings up at Walnico Village at 360 Hancock Road, which is where the lot is located, adjacent to the Well School, just to give folks area for the landmark. There are approximately 25 residents up there. Last Friday, the town of Peterborough served notice to the landlord, Keel Garland, that those residential structures were not safe for habitation. There were some significant safety risks posed by the structures, their wiring and gas. I'll get into that in a minute. And that he was to have the residents removed no later than 4 p.m. on this Wednesday coming up tomorrow, which will be the 16th of December. Since that time, we have met with a number of the residents, contacted by a number of the residents. Also had an opportunity yesterday afternoon for myself, building inspector, the fire inspector, Robbie and Nicole, to meet with Keel Garland, the landlord up there, and sort of express some of our concerns and have a little bit of discussion. I think the first thing that we need to make clear here is these are rental properties. Keel has leases. Our understanding, Keel has leases for all of these buildings, and according to newspaper articles, the rents range from $445 a month for the smaller casitas up to $1,400 a month for some of the cabins. So within those leases, any landlord who leases property has a responsibility under New Hampshire to have that property meet the minimum housing standard. So what sort of led us to get up there and to be where we are was in July, Keel Garland, through the Garland Family Trust, I believe it was, approached the planning board for looking to subdivide his lot to provide individual lots for the houses, cabins that were already up there, as well as his casitas. Part of the preparation for that from the town's perspective was a site visit from code and zoning folks to take a look at what they had to assist them in working with the volunteer boards on that process. When the staff went up, they looked through that in the beginning, mid-November, came back, had an opportunity to review what they found on the site with what they actually had in the files from the original building permits and certificate of occupancies issued roughly the 2005 to 2007 time period, as well as the variance that Keel Garland was given in 2010, I believe it was, by the planning board, that there were some significant discrepancies with what they saw and with what was supposed to be up there and even what Mr. Garland represented was up there. We then contacted Mr. Garland and made arrangements to go up and meet him on the site on December 1st. So building and fire officials went up. When that meeting started, we didn't enter any of the structures. We realized that there'd been a misstep in communication, and Mr. Garland didn't realize we wished to look inside the buildings also. So we rescheduled that meeting for Thursday, the 10th of December. On Thursday, December 10th, fire and building officials went up to the site and with Mr. Garland, had an opportunity to look at enter and look in 14 of the 15 buildings, look at the installation of the liquid propane fuel as well as the installation of the electricity that supplies those cabins. Came back, compared that to what we had as the town for documentation, and found several significant issues. The largest of which around life safety were the liquid propane installation for cook stoves and what are referred to as the cabins, which was the original 7 permanent buildings, as well as liquid propane tanks and piping for heaters in the casitas, had never received proper permitting, therefore had never been properly inspected. On glances up there, it was pretty evident that those inspections were substandard. There were issues with the way that piping was run, the way the piping was suspended, the way it entered the houses, and even questions around makeup air in the smaller casitas for those heaters. With regard to electrical, originally the 7 cabins up there were set up with small solar or battery packs to provide lighting just for emergency egress for folks that were staying there overnight in a temporary or transient sort of housing associated with the Wells School. At some point in time, all of those buildings have received an attempt at more permanent power. That permanent power was a series of extension cords run from the boiler house, a building they call the boiler house, to one of the cabins or directly to the other cabins, and the extension cords were all on the ground, in snow and cold. And I was sharing some pictures up here. So here are some examples of the electrical that we have with these extension cords coming up. As you can see, where the 2 cords are connected, there's really no opportunity, there's no weather there. If you just want to sort of click through those in the cold. Buried in the snow, you can see that's where a smaller cord comes up. Someone just placed electrical tape over what was a multi-junction plug or a plug to try to keep moisture out. Going through, just on these. Each of the cabins was set up with a 10 amp breaker, so a single 10 amp breaker, just to give you an idea of reference. Your typical home nowadays has around 200 usually 200 amps of service. An average bedroom, the electrical code is going to require 15 amp circuit for a bedroom. So we are looking at some of these are 2 or 3 bedroom cabins that are being supplied by a single 10 amp service. Much less than would be required, or much less than you can really safely operate a lot of home appliances. Keep going through just a few other examples. Again, daisy chain extension cords together, run through the ground. You might notice on the ground by that plug is some orange flags like you use in marking the line. Those are across the site up there, marking where those extension cords are run. And those flags are used to, so residents can know where they are, so they don't trip over the cords or dig them up or damage them in some way. A couple other photos here we have around electrical. Here's just a regular extension cord, the orange flag marking its location, run across and under rocks, next to the building and covered in snow.
Sorry, Chief, could you sorry, Nicole, could you go back a couple spots to the one with the orange flag Chief mentioned? Yes, that one. Is that a gas line coming up right next?
Yes, that is a gas line coming in there too. So that presumably comes from there's a tank probably right next to that supplying gas to that building.
Okay, so an extension cord can be wrapped around it like that.
Yeah. Again, this is that same building. You have these cords, running along in grass, and then it just goes into an outside outlet that then is powering the backfeeding into the building that way. We have a couple more electrical. Here's this one's sideways. This is an example. This is one of the buildings that's feeding several of the casitas. So this is the exterior outlet. As you can see, there are just a number of extension cords in here. And these extension cords, this plate is coming off, the cover is coming off of this box. The extension cords are coming off, they're bent at tough angles. Clearly, moisture can get in here, and so forth, as well as the fact that it's just extension cords. I think there's one more electric. Yeah, and this is an example inside one of the residences. The way they're fed is there's a single outlet that comes into the residence. So what you've done is you've forced your resident who's living in there. Just think of ourselves here, in your home, maybe a television, a charger for a phone or a laptop, maybe a tablet also, an alarm clock or some other form of clock. These small homes are limited to a single outlet. With these buildings, who knows what the amperage is, because it's all run through these daisy chain extension cords that up through there. We also now have a series of pictures on propane. So here's an example, again, one of the propane tanks. If you look where this is, the next shot's this same one. Here, this copper line comes off. The copper line isn't protected, it's suspended in the air, it isn't attached to the deck. There's no railing on that side of the deck. If something were to fall off the deck, you could easily strike and break that copper line across in the cold. Similar here, this comes out of the ground, is not attached in any way to the building. Runs up, makes its 90, goes in. There's no connection to the building, nothing supporting this line, providing any element of safety or protection for that. This is one of those tanks next to the building. So, quick little chemistry lesson, propane is heavier than air. So one of the requirements anytime you install a propane tank that is filled on site, as these ones are, is there's a minimum distance that needs to be from any opening so that if there were any kind of a leak there, the propane doesn't leak down in the structure. So here you have two windows right next to this tank. If there are any kind of a leak when you're filling the tank or any kind of problem when the relief valve went off on that, potentially could have propane come down, go right into those openings, into those windows. Just for reference, those are bedrooms down there in the basement of one of those buildings, a low level one of those buildings. A few more here. This is an example again. This is one of the cabins. The gas line goes in and supports a gas stove. This is just a 20-pound cylinder like you use for your home grill. Out there in the weather, runs in to do that. Right next to that, you see a window that goes into a lower level room, as well as a vent, presumably from the bathroom or something else. But again, a vent going out there, and possibly a place where the air or the propane could go into the structure. Move on. So this is one of the cabins, and as I mentioned originally, when the cabins were constructed, this original site was done in conjunction with the Wells School. And at the time, there was no gas in those buildings and the limited power in those buildings, with the understanding those residents would be utilizing facilities at the Wells School for the cooking of meals. At some point in time, this is a pretty significant upgrade that was done. This particular cabin actually had a full gas range installed in it. It's in there, and again, that's being run. We don't know where necessarily where the piping or plumbing is. There's a couple more here. So another example. One of these folks here. This is a cooking stove designed to be used outdoors. If you look at the manufacturer's recommendation or package for this, it's that the stove only be used outside. So in addition to the carbon monoxide risk from this stove, you have somebody storing, who knows how many of these small 1-pound propane cylinders in their home that they use to power their stove. And then the last slide here for the gas, which sort of shows, an example of the kind of things that are important when you do the installs, having them properly installed and having them properly inspected. One of the buildings has a gas line that's tucked up behind some molding, and there's just a little piece of masking tape thrown up here with a note that says gas line inside, do not screw into this. So, if somebody were to pull that, one owner pulls that down, the next owner comes in, decides that's a nice place to hang a picture or put some Christmas lights up or something, and now they've drilled into a gas line. And you've got propane leaking in the building. So this is sort of an example of some of the things that we found when we went and did our inspection up there. So as we did our inspection up there, we really made the decision that it really was not safe and didn't meet a lot of the standards within the housing codes. So just quickly to go over some of the things that are within the health code for the minimum housing standards. Any condition, the landlord is supposed to ensure there are no conditions that would potentially create the danger of electric shock. Any substantial issues with floors, walls, or ceilings that seriously reduce their function or render them dangerous. Some of these casitas aren't properly insulated. The doors literally have, one of them literally has a pool noodle across the top of the door to keep the draft out. So they have that. Inadequate supply of water or equipment available to heat water. The casitas have no running water in them. So the residents that are renting those have to walk outside to utilize, showers, brush their teeth and go to the bathroom at night in the morning when they get up. Leaks in any gas lines or leaks that affect the pilot lights, we do not know whether there are leaks. We do not know how those work, because again, those were never permitted, never installed, looking through that. And then again, that all the heating facilities are properly installed, safely maintained, and in good working order. Again, when we look at the fact that there were no permits, we do not know, and we're not able to determine if those are really set up there and are set up safely. So we went out, we did our, and when I say we here, I'm referring to the town, building and fire officials. We went out and looked at the situation out there and really made the determination that the total number of issues here around electrical and gas installations is such that it does pose immediate danger to those residents, to the people that are living in those structures out there. So we contacted Appeal Garland, made our initial notification to the residents on Friday evening, giving them until Wednesday to move out. A couple of people have sort of wondered about and questioned the Wednesday, and if it's an immediate hazard, why not immediate in terms of right there on Friday. That was a calculated decision that we made, in that although it is a very dangerous situation, both the electrical and the gas there, as a lot of folks have pointed out, nothing has happened. And since nothing has happened yet, we really didn't feel we could immediately, have everybody leave. So we looked at the Wednesday, the 5 days, to hopefully give the owner an opportunity to come forward either with alternative housing or potentially to come to some type of an agreement or some type of a plan to make at least a portion of that habitable for the folks that are there. I see that somebody actually was asked a question about the cabins. We met yesterday with Mr. Garland, with Appeal Garland, to go over sort of some of our concerns and where we are and what might be able to be done temporarily. One of the proposals that we came up with or we discussed was the potential to provide a minimum amount of proper electric power to the cabins. So to be enough so they could safely have egress lighting, so that if they were going to charge phones, run a cooktop or run an appliance, they would have adequate power to do that. Mr. Garland hired an electrician, worked yesterday evening and this morning with an electrician with the hopes of doing that. And unfortunately, what they determined is there really is not even adequate power on the site to provide a minimum level of power to those cabins. One of the things that is those cabins are heated through what's called the boiler house. They have a large wood-fired boiler that provides hot water to the cabins as well as radiant heat in the poured concrete floor of the cabins. The boiler house was where some of that power was coming off of, and the electrician determined that there really is not enough power, adequate power in the boiler house to supply those cabins or to do that. One of the things that, just for clarification, one of the things that has come up is the boiler house will be allowed to stay on. I know that a number of the residents were concerned, again, with the short timeline, even if they can find someplace to move, securing a moving company or their own ability to move that. The power will be staying on to the boiler house. The wood boiler will still be able to remain powered so that those houses will have the heat that they currently have. And with the heat that they currently have, they'll be able to keep their stuff in and store their things in there. And part of our plan is to work with Mr. Garland to make sure that there is a way for the residents to safely get in there and move the rest of their stuff out as they move out. So this afternoon, Tim Hurley, Nicole McStay, and I went out. We had an opportunity to, we attempted to meet with all the residents. I would say about half the residents were there. We had a chance to meet with about half of those residents. Keel was there for part of that conversation and part of those discussions. And we really wanted to make sure the residents understood and had all the information. So we provided the residents with a copy of the letter specifically addressed to them, a copy of the letter that went to Keel, as well as the timeline. Both of those are available on the town website. And We also provided the residents with some additional information on what the minimum housing standard is, what other laws are in the state of New Hampshire around rentals, as well as advising them. We have tomorrow afternoon, when we go back up there to really ensure that Mr. Garland has been able to get the residents out of the structure. So when we go back up there, we also are going to have some representatives from the homeless outreach program, outreach coordinators, up there to work with a few of those residents. There are a few of the residents that have indicated that right now they don't have a plan. I'm not sure where they're going to be able to go. We take their information, and the homeless outreach coordinator is already starting to work based on their demographic information on some ideas for them. And I guess that sort of, takes us up to where we are now. And so, questions?
Well, I think that's a lot of information, and we all saw this the other night when you presented it to us, and it was kind of shocking to see some of those connections, and hence our concern for people living there. I would like to say, we've heard from a lot of people, and we're in a pandemic. People are on edge. It's the holiday season, and we've gotten a lot of input, and certainly concern for people being homeless. This was our biggest fear, our worst nightmare here. I will say that I have actually heard from 6 people that actually, without a blaming of anybody, offered their assistance, which warmed my heart in this situation, rather than jumping the gun and finding blame with somebody, to offer unconditionally. That to me kind of was a little light in this. Nicole, did you, and Chief Walker, would you just clarify, these are state regulations, correct?
Right. So there is the state of New Hampshire through the health, it's RSA 48A, sets what's called a minimum housing standard. That minimum housing standard has some of those things that I outlined. In addition, state building code and state fire code have specific requirements around the installation of electricity and the installation of appropriate fuels. So the issues that are up there that we believe provided that imminent threat and that imminent danger are all around state code and state regulations.
Right, and it's key to point out that whereas this development may have begun 12 years ago, those items have gradually appeared unbeknownst to anybody because there were no permits pulled and, right? And
correct, yeah. The town, obviously we knew people lived up there. However, we had an opportunity to go up there and have staff do a site visit pursuant to the upcoming planning board meeting. We were not aware that the scope of what was happening up on Garland Way, including the way the residents were living there, the condition of the casitas, that it had varied so much from the variance that the corporation was granted back in, I believe it was 2010. 2010, that original, the last year, subdivision approval was on May of 2010.
okay. And we've also heard a lot of concern for why we, as a town, aren't housing people. Could you share what we have done to try and help alleviate that, and what the landlord is doing, since it is actually the landlord's responsibility?
Right. So again, just to reiterate, as you mentioned, Tyler, where the issues are around deficiencies and defects that the landlord is responsible for, it is his responsibility. We met with Akil yesterday. He indicated that that is one of his top priorities, is being able to work and assist those residents that are willing to accept his help for housing and that. And we have to work with some of them on that. The town, so the primary responsibility rests with the landlord. those individuals who the landlord, you do not want to have the landlord, receive assistance from the landlord, or for whatever reason, the accommodation the landlord is able to find don't work for them, maybe that's the commuting, pets, children, access to internet, or whatever else. The town has sort of stepped in and offered to provide assistance to those folks, initially through the outreach coordinator, and also, when it comes to that, there are other resources in town for those folks. I know one of the questions that popped up here on Facebook was, why did we wait until today to provide that information? That information was actually provided earlier through the information that they gave. However, this is the first opportunity we had to get up there and actually hand it. Our intention is that we go out yesterday. Then when we had the discussion where there was some question about whether or not we would be able to get cabins to the point where the cabins could be used, which was the fault of the residents that are up there thinking that it was a longer stay. And if we were able to get those, that would have changed the scope of the number of folks that would have been looking for someplace else to live as of Monday.
Another piece of that is also that I was working while Chief Walker, Tim, and Scott were working on through those issues. I was working on lining up homeless outreach coordinators and their services. So we will have a homeless outreach coordinator available tomorrow afternoon to assist those people. More or less, in the hopes that, of course, that Akil will be able to find alternative housing for everyone, but, expecting that maybe he may not be able to find housing for everyone on such short notice. We want to make sure that we would have homeless outreach available to assist as well. And homeless outreach will also be able to help people if they have, for instance, family outside of the area that they wish to relocate to, be able to help us in those transportation costs. And also if they need assistance, if they find another apartment but can't pay the first month's rent or all of the security deposit, they would be able to assist with that as well. So that was one of the tracks that we were working on getting coordinated.
Okay, and if people have other questions, certainly they can email you, Nicole, and you'll share with Chief Walker and mcstay@peterborough.nh.gov.
Yes.
Okay, and please everyone understand that this is a moving target. Things are changing by the moment as progress happens. There is a timeline of events. If you missed some things tonight up on the town's homepage, I urge people to read about this and understand the depth with which the dangers go with these connections here. This is not something that was taken lightly. These are people's lives. I do not want any of my community members or friends or dying in a fire. Okay, so that's where I stand as far as and I urge anybody that may have a room in a big house on the other side of it and they can safely quarantine and they have a bathroom available or something, please reach out and help our neighbors here. We're all in this. Do it. And I offer my pickup truck again to anybody out there that needs things. My phone, text me or call me. It's available. Anybody else have anything to add to this?
I think it's important obviously it's a horrifying situation, primarily for the people that live there, that may or may not have been aware of these, I'm sure we're not aware of these safety issues. And the steps that were taken by the code and fire department very likely could have saved a lot of people's lives. It's a really dangerous combination of unsecured electric and exposed propane lines. And as awful as this is, it would be a whole lot worse if we were reading obituaries. And gosh, nobody wanted this. This isn't like a punitive measure or anything like that. Nobody wants anybody to be out of their house. This is number one concern is for the safety of those people. mean, it's just way too dangerous.
Can you touch on why, or give us, you know, I know it's private property and there hasn't been a reason to visit up there, these kind of things. What would be a reason for, you know, for it to evolve over the years without anybody?
Yeah, I've seen those questions popping up. So with regard to inspection, the initial inspections were done at the time of construction, which was between 2005 and 2007. So those were done at that point in time. There is no regular cycle for inspection of properties. There is no way, again, as Alan mentioned, that is private property. You know, neither the building inspector or, you know, the health or fire go in and inspect unless there is, you know, something in concept, such as an application for a permit, you know, to install gas or to do a renovation modification to your house, or on the health side or the fire side with a tenant providing a complaint against the landlord against the situation. Typically, with the minimum housing standard, typically what we find is an issue where the tenant is the one who is bringing that to the town's attention, complaining. Usually something like they don't have heat, they don't have hot water, the electric outlets don't work, windows that don't work, things that make the property unsafe in the building. So the town does not have a mechanism to go out and do any kind of sort of a routine, arbitrary inspection of any private property, whether it's a rental property or it's a, you know, single family or, you know, private home.
Right, so just to reiterate, no permits were pulled, therefore it was unbeknownst to
Correct.
the inspector.
It was not until the staff site visit in preparation for the hearing, it was scheduled for last night, it was continued by the planning board. Until that was done, there was no occasion to be out there to conduct those inspections or work that.
And just to be clear, we did not know that, we knew that the cabins were there. We knew about 7 permitted structures. We did not learn about the unpermitted structures, which I believe there are 15 of them in total, including the casitas, until Mr. Garland submitted the plans earlier in November. Until that time, we had no idea that those were out there, let alone that they were being inhabited, which is why we had to go up and do a site visit. And that, of course, you know, as Chief Walker just illustrated, that, you know, initiated the follow-up visit with Mr. Garland and then the premise inspections last Thursday.
Okay. Heartbreaking, very difficult. Hopefully our community can rally and get people a safe, warm place, and this will sort out in the coming weeks and months.
I just wanted to say a few things too. I haven't said much, and I'm just as troubled by this as I know all of you are. It's heart-wrenching to have to do anything like this. And when I read all those emails, which I did, I read every one of them, you know, and I wish that we could find a way to make this go away or postpone it, but, you know, we have to, I believe that we have a legal obligation to act now that we know what is up there. And, you know, I know everybody involved has been working hard to try to help. And I understand already that a few families have been helped already by people in town or in the area that have heard about this. And, you know, we wish also there was a path, and you heard tonight that the people involved with this, the staff, has already looked into, is there a quick way we could at least get those cabins back? And, you know, you heard the answer. There's not even enough power on the property up there to properly do this. So we have made every attempt to do everything we could. And, you know, it is heart-wrenching, and it is awful that we even have to do this. I mean, it's not something any of us ever thought we would ever have to do, I can assure you that. And it's, so, but and hearing and seeing all the pictures. And, you know, everybody has done what needed to be done.
Okay, again, yeah, if you missed it, please email Nicole, nmcstay@peterborough.nh.gov with any questions regarding, Steve, maybe timeline, if you have an idea of, or if you hear anything, we can give updates. But as of right now, this is where it stands, and, you know, Chief made it pretty clear for us here. Do we have any other business?
I did have some other questions I was gonna ask, but I have to commend Chief Walker. He answered those questions before I ever even had to do it and gave us a thorough report on the situation, why it happened, how it happened, what we've all been trying to do about it. So thank you, Chief, for that excellent update.
Okay. I think that'll brings this to a close. When is our next meeting?
Your next meeting is scheduled for January 5th.
Okay. Well, we will have updates, and the weekly dispatch will still go out weekly.
Believe it or not, January 5th isn't all that far away.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't even know what to say. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the questions. Hopefully we can get answers to people and find some place for everybody to be safe. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you. I'll talk again.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
All right.